Perfect. Okay, so if you're able to turn your cameras on, we want to make sure everybody is present for this discussion. So we'll match the presence level as that EC Funds email that you guys are in. So hopefully, if you're able to turn that camera on, please do. Next slide. Same thing with the reactions. We practice a culture here where we use the reactions, and raise your hand if you want to speak your piece. That's definitely welcome. We put some cushion in this training so folks have the space to ask questions, so on and so forth. And if we're able to address those questions, we will. Just full disclosure, if you have specific questions about a client, we're more than happy to take those questions offline just to make sure we're not sharing anybody's information, so on and so forth. But you have any general questions about the process, so on and so forth, that is what we are here for. Okay. All right, meet the team. The regime has changed since we last met. So I'm going to have the team members introduce themselves and talk about what they do and what piece of the pie or what slice of the pie they are representing. So Ishmael, you're up first.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ismail Colon, the Chief Operating Officer here at Advancing Connecticut Together. I oversee the Rapid Rehousing team and the DOH funding as a whole as a fiduciary. So you will see me at times. You'll see me at the spending calls. You'll probably see me get involved when there's a need to roll up the sleeves and really getting in contact with everyone here. And if there are any questions that need to escalate to me having to look at something, then you will probably hear from me or discuss an issue with me.
Okay. Thank you very much. Kendra?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kendra Quatan. I work in the finance department as an accounting specialist and / Rapid Rehousing coordinator. Pretty much my role here is if there's any problems that need to be escalated before it gets to Ismail, you might see me chime in at some times. So nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Kendra. Precious?
My name is Precious. I pretty much talk to everybody in this meeting or in training, but I process all of your tickets and communicate with all of you on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you very much. Maria?
Hi, everybody. My name is Maria Diaz, and I am the Rapid Rehousing Assistance. And to sum it up, I do the same thing that Precious does, and I communicate with you guys all on the daily.
Okay, thank you, Maria. And a lot of you know my name is Brendan Colbert. Currently, my role is the Housing Inventory Chart and Point-in-Time Quality Coordinator, HICPIT for short. I also assist with the facilitation and development of these trainings, Rapid Rehousing, HICPIT, so on and so forth. You guys are part of my role more than you think, but that's a slide down the line, and it's always a pleasure working with you a lot. I kind of like you guys. Patricia.
Hi, everyone. I am the HICPIT intern. I work with Precious, Brendan, and Maria, and I'm just here to observe and help out wherever needed.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank everybody. All right, icebreaker. I worked on this. I found the snow. I actually thought it was clouds, so I'm just in this moment realizing that that's not clouds. But nevertheless, let's do an icebreaker to kind of get everybody's wheels turning. So, what we chose. If you could choose one superpower, what would it be? We'll ask a few folks to, unmute themselves and answer. The more interesting, the better. But whatever power is important to you is important to me. So the floor is yours. We probably won't go to the next slide until I get a couple. So let's go ahead and start. I'll tell you what, I'll go first. So if I had a superpower, if I could choose a superpower outside of superpower being melanated, I would choose, what would I want today? I don't want time travel. That would be too traumatic. Okay, cat, teleportation, cloning. There's only one. There's only one cat, so you can't do the cloning. Sue said healing. To be invisible. I hear that. Heal the sick. I can respect that. Mind reading. I mind my business too much, but I see you, Natalie. I think I would want super strength. I think super strength is where I'm at. Strength, can be described as the catalyst to knowledge. So I think that's where I'm at. Reading minds, okay. Grace, okay. But you already have that. So you already have grace. You're a graceful person. So you won on that one. Let me get two more and then we can move on. Peacemaker. Okay, Khadijah, I see you on that one. The ability to speak ooh. Okay, the ability to speak everyone's language that exists so I can communicate with all. Able to see the future, hit them lottery numbers, ability to fly, invisible, control the elements. Sounds like a 90s baby right there. What was that show we used to watch? Captain Planet. Invisible. Okay, so it looks like the general consensus, everybody on this call kind of sticks to their field and wants to help people or positively impact the global community. So that is absolutely something I can respect. I expect nothing else from this group. Shout out to all y'all. I'm still over here. I can't believe that that's snow and not clouds, but I'm getting old, I guess. So thank you all. Okay. All right, so let's talk some details. We're going to get into the nitty gritty and talk about this training. So those who are OGs and have been here from, I would say, the last 2.5 years when we started the ticketing system, traditionally, one or two people did the training itself. But since my new role last year, I do rapid rehousing less than I ever have. So the full-time rapid rehousing team members will do the majority of the training, and I'll kind of do the outside pieces of it, answer some questions in the chat, kind of guide it. So we'll talk about the processing timeline. So this is what happens from start to finish. Now, full disclosure, the details and the subplots to everything I'm going to mention will be discussed. I just wanted to give you guys sort of a yellow brick road as to what to expect over the next hour or so. I have every intention on giving you some time in your afternoon back, but we will be here until folks are satisfied and have all their questions, concerns, and examples and hypotheticals addressed. Does that work for everybody? Cool. All right. So what happens first? Case manager, you all, you submit a renter request to the community_resources at act-ct.org email address, like you have been doing. Thank you all for that. Next, an ACT team member assigns a rapid rehousing ticket to the processor, and we put to the processor and not a name because it can be a few people. So we just leave that blank. What will happen next is the processing begins. However, you will know. Oh, Lorraine, what's up? Your hand is raised.
Yes. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. I just had a quick question.
Sure.
In reference to the processing, so in HMIS, I'm not able to have access to request the rental. Is that, I was just about to send a help desk ticket to Nutmeg. Do you know what particular reason that may be?
That's a good question. I haven't heard that one before, but shoot an email to Nutmeg, shoot me an email, and then we'll work on it together. But we'll get that taken care of for. That's a pretty quick turnaround. You should be able to move forward after that.
You might have to enroll them in the SS, depending on what rapid rehousing.
Very true.
Put them in the you put them in the case management role as one like enrollment, and then you have to enroll them again. And as one, I don't know everybody's program, but I know ours is like 2017 something SSO. So then that's the one that would be able to do the service. And then that's, as long as they're enrolled in both, when you're in their account, you're going to be able to request a service, but you need that SSO. And I can't remember the exact program that it's going to say, but there's another program that they have to be enrolled in as well.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you for that. I should have asked, did you do that part yet? But yeah, that is right. You'll send that in,
Why can't I
connect with
make
whomever
it?
you need to connect with, and then you'll get all situated. But thank you for that. Okay, next the processing begins. We start the process, we start to investigate, we start to audit, we provide quality management. And that term will come up a number of times in this training because our sole job is to provide quality management to ensure that the information that you send meets both Connecticut DOH and HUD standards based on what they tell us and what we understand as a community to be accurate. So based on that, you'll either be placed in an approved status, a pending status, or the ticket itself will be rejected. More details to come on that. Updates are given via email through our ticketing system. So from our end, we just log into the ticketing system. It's actually the same ticketing system that Nutmeg uses because they're the ones who built it for us. Excuse me, and that's used to update case managers of their current status, as well as some details. Once the rental request is approved, after all pending pieces have been addressed or rejected, if it's resent, so on and so forth, another email notification will be sent to the case manager. Ultimately, our goal is to cut a check and close out that client for that month and release the FSR. So once the check is created, it's uploaded to the client's file in HMIS and available for case managers to view for reference. We will emphasize on that. We ask that before you email ACT funds and ask if a check is cut or if it's available, check your client's HMIS profile first, because it might be there. And if it's not there and you feel that it should or time has passed, then you say, hey, I checked HMIS and it's not there. Can I get an update on this? And then ultimately the goal is for those submissions to be closed, and we just do it again next month until your client is disenrolled. So that is a high level 30,000 feet point of view of the processing timeline. And then we'll dig into it after that. So I'm actually going to hand it over to Maria, and Patricia, you can go to the next slide.
All right, everybody. This is Rapid Rehousing Funds request. And this document is needed every time you're submitting a request, and it also needs to be signed by your supervisor and yourself. You will upload this to HMIS, and you will mark if it's an initial, a monthly request, or a certification. And you will also always write the month and the year. And that's it with this one. Patricia, can you move on for me? Then the financial service request needs to be completed prior to submitting an application, the ticket, and in the ticket system. And you have to make sure that in the FSR, it shows the property owner or the individual who's gonna go to the mailing address all needs to match. Can you go to the next one, Patricia? Common errors that we find on the FSR are two funding source. So like you see on this one, it matches the account name and the provider. That's what we look for when we're doing stuff. And then we look at the reference line, and we look for this one. An example is from March 2022. So we know that that's what we're paying. So if you're doing one for December, it should say December 2022. So therefore we know it's for this year and for this month. And make sure that payment line 2 is always all filled out. And it matches whatever, if it's the initial W-9 information there is there. Can you go to the next one, Patricia, please? This is a standard W-9, and we just need to make sure that the W-9 either has a name or EIN. The same thing with the social or EIN number. And finance will run this through to make sure it matches. And if it doesn't, you'll get an email back saying there's a 10 mismatch, and that's out of either our control or you guys' control, because that is the landlord who's providing this information for you guys. Next slide, please. I think this is yours, Precious.
Okay, so now we are at the part where we're submitting our applications, right? So after you've already put in all the documents that was requested or required through HMIS, now your last final step is to submit a ticket through your email. And that email address goes to community_assistance@act-ct.org. And in the subject line, you want to include the HMIS ID, the type of application, initial, ongoing, recertification, the month of the assistance that you're requesting, and the year. Okay, so it's very simple. You basically are putting what is on that funds request on the subject line. So like Maria said, you want to make sure you fill out that month and year on the funds request. You want to make sure you have that HMIS ID on there and the type of application. And so that's just what you're putting on the subject line. And that allows us to find the type of application when you're requesting, when you have a question about a particular application, but it's also for your record as well. And then for HPP, we have HMIS ID, and then that includes HPP in the subject line, and then the type of application. So we have arrearage, utility, and moving expenses. But if you're not in the HPP program, you won't have to do that, but that's for the individuals who process HPP applications. So once that happens, you will receive a confirmation email that your submission has been received, and then a ticket number will be automatically generated on our end and on your end. So typically you'll see that, or you get an email that says that, one of us has been assigned to your ticket for us to review. And once that happens, that kind of creates the, the platform for us to review all of the documents in HMIS. And then we'll get back to you when it's accepted, if we find an issue with the application, or if for some reason your ticket got rejected. And Patricia. Okay, so these are the different types of application statuses that you typically see. Most of you get an approved status, submission to finance. That means that we have identified 0 errors in your application. So your funds request is correct. If you're submitting an initial ticket, everything in that initial packet, you have all of the documents. All of the paperwork is filled out perfectly. The property owners match up. The address matches up. So that's kind of an example of when we find 0 errors. The FSR is completed perfectly. And then that's when you're going to get that, hey, your submission was forwarded to finance. So that is the approved email. If pending, so let's say that we find an error, we will contact you. So it won't be an automatic email. It will be one of us contacting you with a detailed email stating what you kind of need to fix. If you're missing a portion of the paperwork, or if, we're kind of confused on something within the paperwork, that's when we'll reach out to you and ask for more information, or say, hey, you forgot this. And then we'll get back to you. After you get back to us, then hopefully that resolves that portion of the ticket. But if you don't get back to us within 48 hours, you will receive an automated email. And then when your submission is put into pending, we don't know when you fixed the issue or if you've uploaded any document within HMIS, because we process so many tickets per day. So we kind of need you to notify us through that email whenever you've done that right away, so that we can process the ticket and the application in a quick manner. And then if we reject your ticket, that means that there's something in the subject line that's incorrect, and you'll be notified when the ticket will be rejected. Also, your ticket can be rejected if it was a duplicate request. Or if you emailed and it's not an application, it's a question about a check status, we will also be rejecting the ticket for that as well. Patricia? And so this is just an example of, the pending request and, the errors and the missing information that may happen. So for example, if there's a 10 mismatch on the W-9, if the 10 or EIN number or social doesn't match what the IRS has for that landlord, missing paperwork, additional clarification on a particular application if the client has changed property, and if we will need any other documents that reflect the property change, HMIS ROI release. Sometimes we're not able to view any documents, and that's because we don't have or HMIS does not have an updated release of information. And then you will just receive an email from us stating exactly what needs to be fixed. And then this is just the email that you get every 48 hours. And this one is automated. So we're not sending you these 48-hour emails. That's actually automated emails. So make sure you just reach back out whenever you have the requested information. And then, so once everything is approved, let's say, we approved it the first time, or it was impending and now it's approved. The FSR will go through a final review from my finance department. And then once the checks are cut and the payments are mailed, we will go in on the ticket and update the status to check/cut closed. That means that there's a check copy uploaded within HMIS. And you're able to go into the HMIS document dashboard and view that check. And then a team member will release the FSR in HMIS, and that will change the financial service request status. And there's somebody with their hand raised. Sarah?
Yeah, I was just wondering, would we get an email stating that the check has been cut/closed? Because I know we get a couple different emails once, but I don't remember if it's actually, because it says it goes to the finance department. Do we get another email stating that the check has been sent and cut? I don't think we do. We do?
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
You get an email for every status that up. So whenever a submission is assigned to somebody, you'll get an email right back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wasn't sure about the check / like that it's cut. Because I know even though we send it out, it says the finance, and sometimes I don't receive anything after that. Or as soon as it says it's closed, that means the check is uploaded?
Yes.
Because before it wasn't always like that, right? It took some time for it to be uploaded.
I don't believe so. I believe once that check is uploaded within HMIS, that's when the ticket status is updated, because that happens simultaneously.
Okay.
Precious, is the check mailed out shortly after that?
So once the check/cut or check/cut close status, you receive that, the check is already mailed out.
It's already mailed out. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there possible or any way we can see the back of it after when the landlord said they never got it, weeks go by, to see if it has been cashed?
Yeah, so you can send an email to Act Funds if a landlord expresses, hey, I didn't receive a check, but you may be wondering if the check has been cashed. You can always send an email to Act Funds at act-ct.org. And when you email us, we go to our finance department and ask them, hey, has the check been cashed? And if it's been cashed, they'll provide us the back of the check. And then most times we'll provide it to you for your viewing.
All right. Thank you.
All right, utilities. We always been doing utilities, but we have new requirements for the utilities. So when you're doing utilities, we need the fund request. We need the new utility calculation sheet. The invoice for the utility has to specify the account number, and you could just upload that to HMIS one time, but when you upload it to HMIS, put the UI utility main, so we could see it all the time where I'm doing it. But if you want to upload it every time to the request, we're not gonna also complain about that. You need to do a financial service request for the utility, matching all the stuff that I previously said with the stuff, but just make sure that you either do it for your Eversource, for the UI, whatever utility, make sure you do that. And one of the new things that we have to do for utilities now is the COC/YHP utility participation agreement. That needs to be uploaded. You don't have to upload it every time, but again, just make sure you upload it one time. And in HMIS, please put that is the utility participation agreement. And then if the client does not want to sign that document and they want to opt out of that, and they want to get that payment made towards their name, that means that they will need to provide a W-9 so we could pay them directly. But you also have to make sure that you made the client aware that if the funds they receive are over $599, they will be receiving a 1099. And I saw a question, oh, never mind, he answered it. And this right here is where you could ask any question. This is the Act Once email. If you have any questions about a ticket, it is always advised for you not to reopen the ticket if it's already, to finance, because we don't view all the tickets, we get a lot. Or if the check is cut and you have any questions about where the check is at, you should always send any questions you have to fund@act/ct.org. That is the wrong email. Sorry about that. I'll have Brandon put it in the chat for you guys. And can you go to the next one? This is yours.
All right, folks. Give me 1 second. Right, I just dropped the most updated one. Don't know how that happened, so our apologies. All right, let's talk about how to connect. We connect with you guys frequently, so nothing has changed. So our telephone number is 860-247-2437. The specific team member that you are looking to speak with, their extension is most likely in their signature. However, that is the main number. You can ask for whomever it is you need to speak to, even Rapid Rehousing Department, if you're not sure, and whomever answers the phone will get you over. The funds email address. So the email address for general inquiries, now let me be clear, general, is going to be funds@act-ct.org. I just dropped that email address in the chat. So when I say general emails, I mean checking on the status of a request. Now, let me be extremely clear. If you are in a pending status and you have a request that's open, just feel free to communicate through the email thread that you've been communicating in. An example of when you can use the funds email account is, hey, I saw this was cut and closed a few weeks ago, but the landlord has not received it. That's when you would send an email to the funds email address because it's already closed, and you responding, it's not monitored once it's closed. So we would then, whomever it is that worked on your application would then get the HMIS number, go investigate, and circle back with you either directly through the ticketing system if that's the steps that are needed, or directly through the funds email address which you initially sent that most recent communication to. The Rapid Rehousing website, I'll drop a hard link in there. It's still under construction, but like I said earlier, by the end of tomorrow, hopefully by Monday, but I'm aiming for tomorrow, this most recent training will be uploaded. The video that we took and just told Sarah and everybody else that we're going to work on putting these important documents up there. But for the time being, they're on the CTDOH website. There are documents on our website, but we'll make sure that everything is up to date and all the questions that you have and potentially could have in the future are there. You know, for those of us who are familiar with this term, when they used to say, talk to me like I'm a 2-year-old, that's kind of how we should have our website. And, you know, new folks, we understand that these trainings are a significant part of your onboarding, and we are cognizant of that. So we want to provide you with all of the tools and create the space to answer any questions, concerns, and hypotheticals that you may have, because you do not know what you do not know. And I'm a proponent of that. You should never be you know, weary or insecure to ask a question, express a concern, or investigate something, because that's part of our job and our contract. Little 60-second history lesson. About 2.5 years ago, when we had the bright idea to create this ticketing system, or pay Nutmeg to create the ticketing system, a lot of the reason and foundation was for transparency, both on our end and in your end, and you should be able to see anything and everything, the timestamp, the date. For our OG case managers on the call, you guys remember those Microsoft Outlook days, once upon a time. And see, you remember. So that's gone. We don't do that anymore. And you know, I'd like to think it's been an overall success. However, any feedback that you all have, feel free. See, Sue, you remember? Yeah, you were back in the day. That's right. Liz, as far as the direct deposit, we do not have an update on that as of yet, unless Ishmael has any updates. To the best of my knowledge, we don't have an update as far as that right now, but as soon as we do, we will be sure to blast it out to everybody.
Yeah, so
yeah.
on that question, for the direct deposits, it's currently being looked at. The issue with the direct deposit is the risk factor in submitting payments to accounts that are not updated. It is an issue where it is left to the landlord to update their bank account information. If we don't have the correct account information and we send money to either an account that's no longer being used by that landlord or someone else's account due to error in written form because they've swapped over 2 numbers in their account information, we as an agency, it's difficult to get that money back after it's been deposited through ACH. So we're trying to mitigate the risk that's involved with ACH. And so it's taking a little bit longer to really flesh out this process. So when we do have an update for direct deposit, we'll let everyone know. And it will most likely be rolled out in a very small way using a small pilot of landlords that have a lot of tenants that are using rapid rehousing funds. But we'll let everyone know once we do have more firm dates for that.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yes, we are. About the slides, those will go out. Now the slides I don't have to wait for, so I'll get those out to you guys tomorrow morning. I'll send it to everybody who was invited to this. Sarah, are you good on this slide, or did you need a couple more minutes? Okay, perfect. All right, Patty, go 2 to the right for me. 1 more. Questions? All right. So, oh, you weren't invited? Okay, I'll make sure that you're on there. That's odd. Oh, speaking of that, okay, so if there are some of your colleagues who should have been invited, please email us. I sent that communication out a while ago, but I know there's turnover and folks may not be on the email blast. If managers on here, if you have new case managers, please let us know so we can update our listserv. We want to make sure that everybody is included in all communications, all updates, so on and so forth. We update the group when we're closed, you know, saying that we're going to be closed on this date. We update. Yes, Lorraine, thank you so much. I'm going to grab that right now. I'll make sure that everybody gets those slides, but please make sure that all email addresses are updates. And are updated, excuse me, and we can make sure that nobody is left behind. So where are we right now? We're opening the floor for questions. Just a little disclaimer. I have been in a new role for going on a year and a half, but my ears are still tied to these rapid rehousing streets. I know for a fact that there are questions because I see the Act Funds email. Please use this opportunity that we are providing for you to ask those questions. And there we go. We're flowing. Where can we find these new update request forms? Okay. The update request forms currently will be available on the CTDOH website. However, when I send you all this recording and have our team put it on the website, I will include all of those new documents that DOH sent out. So that I will commit to doing, and you will have them. To my knowledge, and Precious and Maria can speak to this, I haven't seen too many instances where requests are being placed in pending because of the incorrect, my pleasure, because of the incorrect document. So I think we're safe there, but nevertheless, I will still include those to give everybody peace of mind and make sure that everybody has what they are supposed to have. I'll just connect with DOH with that
Yeah,
one.
you can continue to have fill out the same funds requests that you've been filling out.
Yep. Nothing has changed as of yet since the last change, but you guys have been doing it. All right. More questions. And the questions don't just have to be for me. If a question pertains to a particular team member, they'll just answer. We're all here. Do you guys have questions? Oh, here we go. Oh, we're hot today. All right, Maggie, I saw you first. So, and then Dwight, you're next.
One of the questions that we get asked most is the processing time. You know, that is the most that the landlords, especially nowadays, they want to know when they're getting their money. And that's the question that sometimes we're unable to answer because we don't really know. And when exactly, do you have a timetable as to when exactly, like, you send out the checks? Do you just send out the checks, like the first of the month, or do you have a particular timetable? So at least we know when we're talking to the landlords in the beginning that, oh, this is the estimated time that, the checks. So because sometimes we do put in the requests, we give ourselves timetable that we have to start maybe processing by the 20th of each month.
Mhm.
And so that they can be out by the 1st, So is there any particular timetable that, and the processing time, and how estimated time when the checks will arrive?
Sure. Thank you for your questions. Actually, a really good question. So I'll talk about the processing time, and if finance has to speak, by all means, to make sure I'm giving the correct information about what happens when we send it out. So you nailed it with the date. So in a perfect world, ideally, and most commonly, when case managers submit rapid rehousing rental requests between the 20th and the 25th of the previous month. So let me give you guys an example. We just hit December 1st today. So to have and guarantee a January 1st payment, that's a bad example because that's a holiday, but let's just pretend there was no holiday. You would want to send in your request between the 20th and the 25th of December, which would mean the current month. Now, when we say, so to answer your question directly, it's a 5 business day turnaround. That is our goal. That is ideal. And we believe that is the amount of time where all kinks can be taken out and things can be addressed. However, I want to be abundantly clear with you all. When and if you are placed in a pending status, the 5 business day goal pauses, because like Precious said earlier, we cannot move forward. And just like the 48-hour email says, we cannot move forward until specific aspects to the reason why you are pending are addressed. So if you say in the Act Funds email, hey, I submitted this on December 20th, but it wasn't done in 5 days. We're going to take a look. We're going to research. We're going to look at the email thread, and sometimes it's because it was placed in a pending status and we say, oh, well, we were waiting for an updated W-9. And then the case manager will say, oh, I updated it to the client's file. And then somebody will say, well, we didn't know that. You needed to tell us that. So once you have told us, then we continue on. However, taking a look at the ticketing system timeline, you should be able to follow what step you are in. So, we should be in a situation where folks are saying, oh, well, the last, and you guys actually do this pretty well, in my opinion. The last status update I received, it was sent to finance. Then we say, okay, well, let's take a look. Let's see what's going on with finance. And then we'll ask a question and we'll give you whatever that answer is. Somebody asked a question about once it's sent and the landlord says that they have not received it, then you'll send an inquiry to the ACT Funds email address, because if it was sent already, then the request was already closed, check cut, uploaded, so on and so forth. And then finance will do their thing with tracking down the check, see if it was cash, date, time, so on and so forth, and then we'll be able to provide you with that information. So as it pertains to landlord, whether it's landlord recruitment, because I understand that you guys operate in a piece of the process that we don't necessarily see day to day. We're fiduciary. We're the end, and you guys have a tough time when recruiting these landlords, and I absolutely empathize with that, because they need to know, hey, putting this client in this rapid rehousing program that I probably never heard of before. Yes, absolutely, it is. It's a team effort. And when am I going to get my money? And that's a completely appropriate question, because I will want to know when I'm going to get my money as well. So officially, you can let them know, hey, we aim for a 5-day turnaround. Full disclosure, we will send screenshots. We will send dates that you sent something in. We have received over the years some inquiries where case managers may feel that something is late or wasn't processed in time, and we are going to absolutely research that. We're going to send times that it was sent. We're going to send screenshots. We're going to let you and your manager know exactly when the initial request was submitted. Creating a service request in HMIS is not submitting a ticket. That's your first part of your process. But until that ticket is submitted and emailed to the community_resources at act-ct.com, that is when the ticking starts. The good news is your initial submission, nobody needs to be at work. So that first email, and when I say nobody needs to be at work, I'm referring to us. That initial email that you receive, that is an automated system. So depending on if it's morning, noon, or late evening, depending on who is distributing those tickets for that day, they'll see when you submitted it. They'll see that you received an email acknowledging it, so on and so forth. And if for some reason you do a typo, and you mess up community underscore, and it's happened before, and I've even done it before, you will not receive a confirmation email. So if you know that, hey, I received an email, hey, I received a pending email, hey, I received a submitted to finance every 48-hour email, so on and so forth, that means it is working. That means the email is working. I also want to make clear before I take another question that you all know that if you received an acknowledgement email saying that your ticket or your submission has been received by ACT, or a 48-hour email saying that it's still pending, that is the same email system that sends you an email when something is missing. We have seen over the years a couple of very seldom instances when emails are felt to not have been received to case managers or agencies when they're pending or rejected, but they seem to never have an issue when they are accepted. And we just want to let everybody know that it's the same email system, the same email that shoots you an update saying that your request has been processed and submitted to finance for payment processing, is the same email system that says when you have a pending account, a pending application, so on and so forth. So that's the long version. The short version is we'd like to get it done in 5 business days. And by all means, I talked about transparency. if it's going too short or taking too long, reach out. Ishmael, the floor is yours, and then Dwight, I got you right after.
So as far as the timeline goes, I mean, 5 days is the perfect world. We have the United States Postal Service, which
Right.
everything has to go through. So in an effort to really manage the expectation for the landlords, I would, if you're having to manage multiple landlords and that question keeps coming up, you want to give yourself some kind of a buffer, so that there's not this constant nagging with the landlord as to when they're going to get their check. I think a reasonable request, for us internally and to get the whole process is 5 days, but we've seen payments that do go out in 5 days from our end, but don't reach the landlord well past 2 week mark, because due to the postal service. So you want to be able to manage that expectation on your end there, and like Brendan said, if there's something that's way outside of this realm, then definitely communicate that with us, and we can try to figure out what's going on. If we need to put a stop payment, reissue check, then that's what we'll do. If the payment needs to be out sooner than that, and arrangements can be made to pick up a check if that ever needs to happen.
Perfect. Thank you. Dwight, the floor is yours, and then Sarah, I see you right after.
Yeah, thank you. So this is Mario. I'm just doing the training with Dwight.
Oh, okay.
So I have yeah, it's all good. So for when we submit the initial FSR,
Yep.
I've been submitting the requesting for the security deposit, and then I've been doing another one for the first month. Can I combine those on the initial, or I need to do both tickets?
So thank you for that question. Actually, it's a good one. I'll make everything clear for everybody. As far as combining, when you say combining, are you referring to when you submit or when you send in a submission to our ticketing system, or are you talking about when you create it in HMIS?
Well, no, when I'm completing the FSR to request the funds. So if the landlord asks me for the 2-month security deposit, and then we need to cover for the first month rent, so I'm submitting a ticket for the security deposit, and then I'm doing another one for the first month. So my question is if I can put the 2-month security deposit and the first month on the same ticket.
Well, to answer your question, you will need 2 separate FSRs. You need one for the security deposit and one for the first month rent. When you completing the FSRs, and then the reference line, you have to be really specific and put security deposit. But when you also are doing an initial, we are looking at the lease. We are looking to the lease to see what the landlord put as a security deposit. So if your lease does not match what the FSR says, we're going to ask you for more clarification. We're going to put you in pending, because whatever you're asking for has to be specified also on the lease. And if they need a prorated amount, whatever the case might be, you also have to sit here and they have to specify it on the lease. And once you're doing the initial, all you have to do is submit a ticket for initial. And as long as the lease correlate with the security or prorated, then we will put those together. You don't have to do 2 separate tickets, but you need 2 separate FSRs. Does that make sense, right?
Yes. So I don't need to send 2 emails then.
No. If it's an initial,
Right, so
you can send one email saying initial December, and in that initial, we're looking for whatever the lease is specifying. If the lease says a double security deposit for, let's say, 3,100 and a prorated rent for 451, we're looking for 2 FSRs that specify those amounts that the lease said.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. Probably keep submitting the 2 tickets. I don't get confused myself. And then I have a question. What's the earliest I can submit? I know I usually start submitting on the 3rd week of the month, but next
20th.
Next month, this month I'm going to be on vacation from the 3rd week. So what's the earliest I can submit? I'm meaning now for January.
We normally like you to submit them by the 20th, but if you're going on vacation or something happens and you need to submit earlier, you could submit earlier, but that would just mean the ticket on our end, if it's an ongoing, will just be open for longer into, the end of the month and stuff like that.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's all I have for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Sarah, floor is yours.
So, and maybe you answered it this one. So with the ongoing, if we send it in on the 20th, the check doesn't go out until the 1st, or will you
Correct.
write it? Okay, so even though we send it in on the 20th, it's not going to be complete, like on your end, you're not going to actually mail it to the 1st.
Correct. We will process it and make sure everything is lined up, but it'll get mailed on the 1st of the month.
Okay, why if we have a client who's moving in the middle of the month? Will you submit that as soon as possible, or you still wait for the following month?
Well, Sarah, to answer your questions and stuff like that, when we have like a client that's moving at the end of the month, or it's like an initial request, we put that on a special folder for finance so they could process that first before they process the ongoing. So if it's right now we are in December and you have a request for October or November, those requests for those have to get processed first. So we'll put them outside the folder for the finance to send a check quicker for those. If you have a utility, we also put that in the outside. We prioritize the payments according to, you know, high demand and low demand, so it can be processed as quick as possible.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Okay, Kat, so for prorated requests, would it be appropriate to bind it with, so you want to create an FSR for every funds request that you ask for, every check that you were asking for. And just like Maria said, we're going to go based off of the lease. So if the lease says $500 for the first month's rent and $250 for a prorated amount, you need to create 2 separate FSRs because that is what the lease is asking for. So unless it is specifically specified as one amount in the lease, the safest way to go would just be to not combine it. An example where you would combine is if the landlord is asking for a double security deposit, because you're going to write you're going to request a funds request and you're going to create the FSR for the double security deposit, because that's exactly what they're asking for. So at the beginning, when we got on this call, I wanted to emphasize quality management, because that super magnifying glass and dotting the I's and the T's on, and that's what we do. So play it safe and basically move in alignment with what the landlord asks and how they write the lease. Now, on the other side, Monica, I see your question. On the other side, if the landlord expresses to you that they're looking for something specific, and you can say to them, hey, let me take a look at the lease and see if you communicated it like that, because the fiduciary agency we work with, they're going to go by what the lease is. So that, that's a tip that may help. Obviously, I will leave the face-to-face interactions with the landlords to you all, because you guys are the experts with that. We don't even speak to them, but just to properly set expectations, you can tell them, hey, they go based off of the lease. So that's what you'll have to do. We read, if we want FSRs, should we be attaching previous pay stubs? Previous month's pay stubs. Okay, so Monica, let me see here. So we want to complete, yep, between the 20th and the 25th. So you got a little bit of cushion room. Pay stubs, or the pay stubs. Okay, I'm gonna divert to Maria and Precious on this one. I haven't been processing that many, so I don't know any updated
Can you read
information.
the question out loud for us, please?
Oh, you're talking to me. Okay, yeah. So Monica wants to know if they're looking for the FSRs to be completed by the 20th of each month. Should case manager be attaching the previous month's pay stubs or the pay stubs up to that date of the 20th of each month? Monica, can you expand on that a little bit just to make sure we're clear? Are you referring to the income? Okay.
Yeah, for the income of the client. So if they get paid bi-weekly, they might be receiving their last check, past the 20th. So are we attaching the last month's pay stubs instead of this month? Does that make sense? So for January, for example, are we attaching December's pay stubs, or do you want January's, because if they get paid bi-weekly, there might be only one pay stub they receive by the 20th or 25th.
So
That's
you'll
fine.
just put the last, whatever last two pay stub it is they have, even if it's for December, you'll put the last two. If it's weekly, you put the last four, or whatever the case you guys have to do as case managers, but just put like whatever, you have, or if they don't have no income, please include a zero affidavit in there.
Okay, so just the most recent ones that we have.
Yeah, most recent. Yeah,
Okay.
because they'll be able to line up the dates. Because they haven't technically gotten. You're referring, if it's December, you're probably referring to that paycheck that folks will get on the 24th or what, after the cutoff time. But no, just do the 2 or 4 most recent,
Okay.
and that will
perfect.
suffice.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? Keep them rolling. You guys can't possibly want an hour back. All right, folks. So this is the deal. This is what we're gonna do. If there are no more questions, we will we'll end, and I'll start working on packaging everything up and sending it out. But thank you all for taking the time. I know that Thursday is towards the end of the week, and this is after lunch. We just had lunch before we actually came back earlier to get all beautified for you guys. But we'll send all this information out. I'll make sure the slides are there. That's a good question for the group. For our Rapid Rehousing team members, the question is: are we updating zero income affidavits monthly?
If the client is still having zero income month after month, then you can just submit the same zero income affidavit. If you can identify that.
Okay, so
For the zero income affidavits, you have to see what your agency tells you that you're supposed to submit it. Some agencies do 3 months, some agencies do 6 months, but whatever zero affidavits you have, that's what you submit. I see 3 months every 90 days.
Okay.
So, whenever it is that your agency tells you that you need to fill out those paperwork, that's what we take. I mean, you can't submit a zero affidavits for last year. That's like, it needs to be more current than that.
Okay, and we'll include that information when we send out the blurb. Khadijah, when are you shutting down? Okay, so we're closing, I believe, all the way up to that Friday before Christmas, because Christmas is on a Sunday this year, which kind of messes the game up a little bit. So as far as December, this is what we'll say, and Ishmael and Kendra, if I'm speaking out of pocket, please let me know. If it's a situation where normally it's the 20th through the 25th, and you need to submit it a couple of days before that, we'll take it. Please have the expectation that it will sit. It'll sit there a little longer. Now, the expectation is for us to still have the turnaround in 5 business days, so on and so forth. But just like the example earlier, if a lot of folks are going on vacation, taking some PTO, and hey, Brendan, I got to submit it on the 19th. It's not the 20th. That's okay. Just have the expectation of the timeline. And what we will do, we'll work with our internal team just to add a couple of lines of verbiage for the automated system. We'll be writing it because this only happens once a year, but it won't be the initial one that you get because I got to open the bank accounts for that one. But as far as the communications that come from us, we will acknowledge that. And you're more than welcome to say, hey, act where I'm submitting this because I'll be out on the 20th through the 25th, or my agency will be closed. Just give us as much detail as possible, and then we can act accordingly. Most likely we will just color code it like we have done in the past around holidays, where it's still accepted, but folks will just know, hey, it's going to sit there just a couple days longer. So if that's okay with you, that's okay with us. Just make sure that you have the correct expectation. Don't worry, you do not have to remember what I'm saying verbatim. Just know that that is the plan. Landlords are still playing. Yes, Khadijah, that is correct. 10th, it should be the 10th. The 10th is the Connecticut cutoff time. As we mentioned before, our goal is to get that out by the 1st. That if there's any concern or additional information needed on that, by all means, let us know. But that is the expectation every single month for the landlords to have that. And just like Ishmael mentioned, we do use United States Post Office. And, if we cut the check, mailed the check, uploaded everything, our first order of business will be checking to see if it was mailed, if it was delivered, if it was cash, and then we'll update you accordingly. By all means, we encourage you guys to have the most transparency possible. We will flip any question as soon as humanly possible. If your landlords have questions that they communicate to you, please ensure that you guys are the ones to communicate that to us. CT boss. Okay. Thank you. I did know about CT boss. I'll include that in the email blast I send you all tomorrow. But yeah, please try to not have landlords or residents reach out to us. That is not something that we do, and we will not engage with them. Please be the liaison between the landlord, your client, and us. It's happened a couple of times, but we want to make sure that the agencies that we're working with are the ones that we're communicating with. If something is taking a little longer than you would expect, we empathize with that, and we want to get that check out as soon as you do. However, if there are questions about the pace, the timeliness, why it's taking so long, by all means ask. If you are not receiving a response as quickly as you would like to, that is something that needs to be addressed. So you can reach out to, ACT Funds or Kendra or Ishmael, and they'll be more than happy to work with you and get that update to you. What if a landlord would prefer direct deposit? I mean, if a landlord would prefer direct deposit, that's something that we would communicate to you all, and you would communicate to them when it's available. It's not available as of right now, but once it is available, there's a lot of moving parts in that piece of the project that are not seen to the naked eye. But as soon as that is available, by all means, we would love to save some money and postage. So we'll let you guys know ASAP. And by all means, you can always ask. We'll just send you upstairs to Kendra, Ishmael, and they'll be able to give you that updated information. But as far as today, it's not available, unfortunately, but I hope it will be when the time is right.
Question, Brendan.
Yep.
Those requests that were already sent to you for direct deposit from prior landlords, is that form, does it have to be refilled out again when you restart again, or are those still already on the application to be processed when direct deposit picks back up?
That's a good question. I will defer to Ishmael. Actually, well, you're talking about the OG ones from back in the day. I remember those. Yeah. Ishmael, when that time comes, I know we don't know the logistics, but will we have everybody redo it, or what's in their HMIS file, would that suffice?
So the idea of the direct deposit is that we want to have the most up-to-date information as possible. So we wouldn't use anything that we have received before. And ideally, what we're looking for, and this is one of the reasons why this is taking so long, is that we want to make sure that the onus is on the landlord to keep their information up to date. So we're trying to work with several different banks in order to approve a portal for our vendors to go in, sign up, put all their information into a banking portal, which then feeds back into our dashboard and our systems internally, which we will then have to communicate. But that part has been very difficult to try to move forward with the banks that we have been engaged with. So aside from that and all the other, risk mitigation factors that we're trying to put into place, it's one of the reasons why this is taking so long.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. I copied everybody's email address who needed to be added to the updated listserv. I will leave 120 seconds open. So if you forgot to drop the email address, please do. If not, just send it to me. Yes. forgot about technology, but send it to me and I'll make sure it's added to the listservs. But before we go, are there any other questions? Any wish lists that you want to say? You know, I like candles, mahogany teak wood, mahogany coconut. It's actually really good. Nothing. Gift cards. I understand. All right, folks. Well, this was fun.
Gift cards to Dunkin'
Hey.
Donuts as you'd like to give.
You know, that's not a bad idea. There's one on every corner. Okay. All right. I'll let you guys go. This is fun. I actually truly enjoy it. That's why I still do it. We'll see you guys in May. We aim